Okay, I can't decide if it's better with this on or off. I'm gonna go with it off because I don't know. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I have filmed a video. First of all, let me start off with saying I'm so sorry that it's taken me so long to film a video. I have been so busy this few months with my family, and of course you guys know I have teenage children and they are very, very involved in activities, sports. I have one that's going to driving school, and so I have just been bombarded with things. I don't know if I've shared this or not. My mother was diagnosed with a form of cancer. We were dealing with that as well. Thank you, God. Everything is okay. She has had a surgery that resolved her issues, as well as some other treatments, like other radiation treatments that she needed to have, and everything is looking great. She's now like cancer free, and we're so appreciative. But our journey was shocking, and it happened very quickly, and so my complete focus was on her and supporting her through her journey, and all of the YouTube took a back seat at that time. So of course that just months passed and I didn't even think of making a video because I was just very focused on her, and especially like talking to my children about it, and my children all kind of worrying about her and making sure everybody was in their right mindset, because when people get cancer, life still goes on for everybody, and that's difficult because school doesn't stop for the children, activities don't stop for the kids, you know, and my kids are very, very strong, you know, and that perseverance is something that I teach. And so teaching them to work through those issues, teaching them how to deal with their emotions, their priorities, all of those things, it takes a lot of coaching, you know, it's coaching. Every day is coaching, because so much of raising teenagers is their mental understanding of how to deal with the world, you know. I always think like I'm coaching every single day for my kids to learn to be adults that are functioning on their own, you know, and all these obstacles that we're dealing with just gives opportunity for that proper coaching, for that proper mindset, for how to deal with things. And so, yes, that's where I have been. On the other home front, like I started my Winrevair injection 6 months ago, and my life has changed. I'm so grateful for that. Although navigating a new medication is a new experience, a new learning curve, of learning your body, what your body is going to do, how you have to monitor yourself, blood work for the medication. Is this woozy feeling normal? Is it part of a side effect? The trauma of like, whoa, I really felt this. Is that what's going to happen? Is it going to be bad? Is that good? Which is a huge story, of course. That's like a whole nother video that I need to make. And I need to make this video, but again, I just have had so many things coming towards me at the same exact time that I really haven't had time for myself, because YouTube is my passion project to document these things, not to mention like a husband that has his own, you know, journeys that I'm trying to support, and dealing with my own chronic illness and ordering medications, my mother and my kids. And I always, you know, say like I have a whole another child in another city that I'm trying to emotionally support through her graduate degree and her clinicals. And that is a lot of pressure on a kid. That is a lot of emotional, mental stress for her to be doing her testing and clinicals. And I get to be there to support her. I get to be myself every single day, just giving an outpouring of support for my family. And like, I just keep referring back to the word coaching, you know, coaching that mental toughness, you know, coaching, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is the way to look at it. Let's talk about the pros and cons. Let's figure out what's best for you. Listening very, very intently to my children's needs, what each child needs, and adapting the coaching tactics to each one. It's been a lot. And if you see, I have like swelling on my face. Again, side effect of Winrevair. But I wouldn't change it for the world, you know, because the benefits outweigh any of my facial swelling or my hair turning into hay. The medication has really allowed me to be more myself in my body, because for a long time I was a spirit living in a very, very fragile body. And although I still am living in a fragile body, it's so much stronger than I was. And so I'm able to be more of myself expressively. I can laugh more. I can dance more. Again, another video. But yeah, I was having my coffee and this morning, and I was sitting there and I thought, golly, I need to make a video. And then I was like contemplating, like, how am I going to jump back into it? You know, what's the right thing to do first? And I thought, like, fuck it. Like, why am I trying to decipher, you know, the right way to make the right video? And I was just like, I'm just going to talk about what I'm thinking about now. And so what I was thinking about when I was drinking my coffee was, all this crap going on in the news is insane, and it directly affects society. And this man shooting this CEO, well, I guess, like, I shouldn't say these things, but like this, my channel doesn't get any kind of payment or anything. So if they take down the video, it's not a big deal for me, because I don't get paid by any of this stuff. This man shooting this CEO is such a big deal, and it's changing a lot of the way people think about insurance companies, and it's bringing to light and it's bringing to the forefront to a lot of people that are normal, that don't have to deal with insurance companies, the corruption, the monopoly that is the healthcare system. And it is something that us in the chronic illness field have completely lived with for many years. And I'm saddened that it was brought to light this way, because the death of any person is sad, but it was destined, something drastic is destined to happen when such hardships are being placed on people. So it's like the dam is going to break eventually, you know. This is what I was really going to make the video about, because I do have my own story times that I should share, that I don't share because I just kind of always feel like there's not really an appropriate time to be like, hey y'all, let's talk about my, sad little life or whatever with chronic illness. But I do feel that my story times are appropriate to share now. Oof, I hope I don't cry, because this is like not supposed to be a crying video, but I've already shared in my other video about how my drugs have gotten denied, and thank you God, I went on a form of a generic medication. So let me just quickly recap that video. I'm gonna link that video somewhere here or down below. It says like $10,000 medication or something, because I was shooketh. I was terrified. My insurance company basically denied my Letairis medication, which is a oxygen medication that I take. It dilates my lungs so that I can breathe more oxygen. I was taking it every single day, and one day they were just like, denied, you're not getting it. And I didn't know, I didn't find out. Okay, sorry guys, my battery ran out of charge. Yeah, I just found out because I was trying to order my medication, and my pharmacy was like, yo, you're not getting your medicine. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not getting my medicine? Oh, sorry, I had to change my battery and I'm right on. It was very shocking. It's an emotional roller coaster when an insurance company is just like, yeah, we're not going to give it to you. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to give it to me? And they're like, this is the worst part about insurance companies, is that they don't tell you like, well, your insurance company wants you to try this other medication because it's cheaper. They don't tell you anything like that. They're just like, no. And I'm like, why? And they're just like, it's denied. That's all we can say, is that it's denied. You're going to have to call your insurance company. So it's just red tape that you have to go through. It's very stressful emotionally when your health is on the line and there's nowhere to turn to except the phone number that you're waiting on for hours at a time. And then usually you speak to somebody who is rude, and it's not their fault. They're rude most of the time. They're overworked, underpaid. It's always a blessing when you get somebody that's kind and nice, but a lot of times they're very rude. And they're rude because you're asking the same question that a million people have asked before. Why am I getting denied? And they're giving you the health code that they're reading on their computer, and they sound like robots, and they're like, I can't tell you anything else, because that's their job. So it's just a mess, right? It's all a mess. And that's what it's like dealing with health insurance. So yes, I've been denied for my medications before and forced to go onto generic medications. And I think I was on those generic medications a few months. It's been so long ago. I can't remember exactly how many months I was on the generic medications, but oh God, I had massive headaches. I was nauseous all the time. And then I needed like nauseous medication to stay on that. And I was on Advil and like some other medication for like pain for my headache, because I was just in so much pain on the generic medication. And I guess it's just my body just was not happy with it. Sometimes I guess generic medications are the same. In this case, my body was just not jiving with it. And my doctor and his team had to do like an extensive amount of like talking back with the insurance company and back with the insurance company over a period of months for me to go back onto the name brand Letairis medication. And so thankfully I was able to go back onto the name brand Letairis medication, and then it wasn't as bad. My side effects cleared up and I was able to be more, okay throughout the day. If you see me doing this, another side effect of the Winrevair medication is that my eyes are always leaking. So it looks like I'm always crying, or it looks like I'm always watery, or I'm always leaking, and I'm very self-conscious about it, so I'm always trying to like not get little gunks in my eyes, and I'm always like wiping it away. But anyway, new side effects, right? New character unlocked, crying Erica. But my story time, I do want to share mostly not so much the medication denial. Like, the medication denial is very traumatic and it's its own story, but I made a video on it and it's out there. The story I haven't shared that I was like, damn, like I should make a video and I should share that story is that, and this might make me cry because it's a lot of the shit you deal with insurance companies, and it's like I tell my kids, when you're going through a journey, you have to stay laser focused on executing the journey. Stay focused on your execution. Not. Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's like I tell my kids, like when you're in the midst of the journey, right? I always tell them, focus on the execution. Focus on the goal or the task at hand, you know, and what your desired effect is that you want, right? And so when you're in those journeys, you're in them. You're focused. You're in your mindset. And so it's upon reflection of the journey that you tend to have the emotion for yourself, that you tend to, I'm so relieved looking back at my experience that I'm able to just be a witness of my experience on a human level, you know? And it's like watching a movie back in my brain. I have such a good memory, and of course something that's like traumatic will stay with you even deeper. But I remember when I was sick and I was placed in the hospital and I was first put on the pump. I was so ill that I really wasn't understanding what was happening at that time. I remember like getting a CT with contrast, and that I fainted like immediately after that. I'm sure they were talking to my husband about like the pump and things, and I just remember basically kind of like going into surgery and waking up and this pump was on my body, you know, and I was so ill, like my body physically, that I was in such a state of like survival. And of course I started Remodulin. So the side effects of the Remodulin were so intense. The headaches were so intense. And I was like vomiting. It was bad, you know. But I was so, my blood pressure was tanking so badly because I was dying, you know, that I could barely move. I was bedbound for a long time. And I was placed on the medication, and I was placed in a room. And I was told like, okay, you have to now learn how to make this medication. And somebody is going to come and teach you how to make this medication. And I was like, somebody from the insurance company is going to, somebody from the pharmacy is going to come teach you how to make this medication for yourself. And I was like in such a state of fear that I would not understand how to make the medication and then kill myself with over medicating myself, or getting an air bubble in that cassette that would shoot to my heart and I'm dead. So I was just very terrified about that experience. But then, then that's when I decided like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Slowly, we waited for weeks until the person came from the pharmacy to teach me how to make the medication, because they were working with my insurance company, and my insurance company was like, from what I'm understanding now, I think my insurance company was like, is she gonna die or is she gonna live? Like, let's wait it out and see if she's gonna die or if she's gonna live. Like, in reflection, I look back and I think like, I think that's what they were doing, just waiting to see if putting the pump and the medication and teaching me all these medication things was really gonna be worth it or not. And I waited for weeks, and they were able to finally teach me how to do the medication. So I learned how to do the medication, and I'm like, okay, now I get to go home, right? I know how to do the medication. I'm strong enough to go home. And my insurance company was like, yeah, we're not approving the medication. We're not approving the Velitri. It's not approved. Like, you're just not gonna get your medicines through the pharmacy. We denied claims to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy was like, we can't let you go home. And the hospital was like, we can't release you to go home because the pharmacy is not giving you medications. And the pharmacy is like, I'm not giving you medications because the insurance is denying your claim. And I was like, okay, so like everything was dependent on everything else. And the hospital was like, you are on an IV therapy treatment, which injects medication into your body every 30 seconds. You will die without this IV therapy, and we're not allowed to release you unless you have your medications from the pharmacy. And the pharmacy was like, yeah, we can't give you any medications because the insurance has denied your claims. And I was like, okay. And I'm sitting in the hospital room, literally been weeks from the surgery of putting the pump in, sitting there. My children are like very small. They're like 6, 7, like they're small kids. And I'm trying to get home so that I can be with them. And the insurance company is like, no. And I stayed in that hospital for like months. I stayed in that hospital for months. I think it was like 3.5, almost 4 months that I stayed in the hospital. That I couldn't come home. I couldn't leave. I couldn't be home with my family or my pets. And my mother had to come, and my mom and my dad came, and they moved in with my family so that it could continue to function. And my dad and my mom would take my kids to school so that my husband could go to work. And it was a very difficult time for my family and for myself. But yeah, I had to stay in my hospital room for months, even through Thanksgiving. And it was really difficult. And the fucked up part about it is that my hospital room where I was placed had a window. And the window would look out, and I was barely able, after I started to have the medication and after like a month went by of having the medication, I started to be able to stand. And so I would stand and I would like get to the window, and there was like a little seat like next to the window. So I would sit next to the window because that was the only outside that I was able to get. And the fucked up part, guys, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. The hearse would leave right from my window, right underneath my window. That's where the hearse would take the bodies to the street. And so every day I would just like look, and it would be like people's dead bodies like leaving the hospital, and I would just think like, holy shit, like that could be me, like that could be me, you know, like am I gonna make it? You know, it was just so stressful, so strenuous on the mental health, you know, of going through such a traumatic situation like that, because the insurance was denying my approval for medications. And again, in retrospect, I look back and I think, oh God, like I was so ill. I honestly, again, feel my opinion that the insurance company was just like waiting for me to die off. They were like, we're not going to approve her medications. Just let her die in the hospital. And then we won't have to, you know, pay for these medications, because at the time I was on Velitri, it's insanely expensive, you know? And I just think now in reflection, like the trauma of that is so hard. And it's a story that I don't think I've shared like in detail that way. But I'm just one person that these companies have done these terrible things to. And I think I always use my kids in conversation. My son is a history genius. Like, he's a history buff. He loves strategy, history, politics. He loves all that stuff. And I always, always, always tell my son, it's okay to, you know, admire these people in power and understand their strategies for success. But the one strategy that you must always keep in mind, always, I tell him, is to feed your people. Feed the people, because the people are the whole. You are the one. The one is only a part of the whole. The whole is always greater than the one. Whether you like to believe it or not, the whole will always rise up and take out the one eventually. And I think that our society is getting to a place where the whole is not being fed properly and is starting to do things like this. And of course, I don't condone it. You know, death is not the answer. But there's so many different people in this world that making statements for different people is different things. And the whole, meaning like the small folk, the people, like us, we're so focused on creating our lives in the most positive manner possible that we don't talk about the darkness that we have to go through sometimes. And so we're so busy just like surviving in that stressful space, that we don't share, we don't bring to the light some of the darkness that we have to deal with the insurance companies or these like big box corporations that have a monopoly on all of the economy. It's like we're a droplet of water in an ocean, you know, and these massive companies are waves. So it's like sometimes it's like focus on the positive, because you are the only one that can bring joy to your life in any place and time, you know. Famous quote, like, you're only a prisoner if you believe you're a prisoner, right? So you can find happiness anywhere you are, in any situation that you are. And being a person like me who's dealt with like the verge of death, seen death, been very close to death, and felt. I like to tell my kids, like, I've had conversations with death before when you feel your body dying, you know. When you're a person like me, there's not a lot of things in life that can happen to you that you're not able to handle after that. But we do need to feed the people, and we do need to bring to light the darkness that we deal with so that there can be change. And I think this is just, again, if you look at any history, like I tell my kids, look at the history. When the kings don't feed their people, revolution happens, and Marie Antoinette gets her head cut off, you know? And so I think that we're just looking at that in society. And I think that my story that I'm sharing with you today is not even as bad as other people's stories where they've lost their loved one, or they've lost limbs because of health insurance, you know, approvals and things, and delayed approvals. People have lost limbs. People have not been able to get surgeries. They live in very sad places and states. It's difficult. And the thing that I tell my kids is that we pay for those health insurance bills every month. Every month you pay that health insurance with the intention that when you're in a difficult spot, they're going to pay for what you need. And that's not what happens a lot of times. And so we're left in this paradox situation of good and bad, and of just getting what you need to survive, you know? And I know that I'm leaving out a lot of details because I don't want to like go, oh, boo-hoo, like I'm trying not to cry about it, but every time I lock into those emotions and that feeling of being in that hospital room for like all those days, it is heart-wrenching, you know. And half of the time I was bedbound, and then the other half of the time I was just focused on standing and sitting by a window. But yeah, I mean, golly, in retrospect, like I think the insurance company was just waiting for me to die, and thank God I didn't. And eventually I was able to get approved for my medications and come home. But yeah, it was crazy. And then get this is a fucked up part, is that shortly after that I came home. I was still in heart failure. I was still getting sicker, even with the pump on, because I wasn't getting proper treatment in my area. That I was getting sicker with the pump on, still fainting, still unable to get rid of any of the water weight because I was already in heart failure. So a few months after that, when I was at my like bedbound still, I regressed from being able to stand by a window back to bedboundness, and they shipped me. I have the Velitri pump on at that point. They shipped me to San Antonio. I was able to get in to see my doctor in San Antonio, which was another amazing doctor. I get into my doctor in San Antonio, and he's like, you're not leaving. You're going straight to the ICU. Went straight to the ICU and was in ICU for months. I think like another month, maybe 2 months, I think, something like that. I don't remember exactly the timing on that, but switched my pump from Velitri to Remodulin medication. He's like, you cannot be on Velitri, you know, you have to be on Remodulin because you travel for healthcare. If your Velitri stops, you're screwed in like 6 minutes. Your body will go into like shock. And I was just like, holy shit, like I didn't even know that kind of stuff. So I went on to the Remodulin treatment, And get this, guys, I forgot to even say this. I had already been billed in my insurance said we already paid for a lung treatment, which was Velitri at the beginning of this month. You switched to Remodulin medication, which is another lung medication, IV therapy lung medication. We are denying that claim and we're not paying this month to put her on that medication. And my doctor, of course, was like, I don't give a shit. I'm putting her on the medication. Switch the medication. So I start the medication halfway through the month. The next billing cycle, my insurance was like, okay, we'll pay for the Remodulin now because we're only paying for one lung, like, IV therapy. The next month, my IV therapy got approved for the Remodulin. But I ended up paying $7,000 because they just denied the claim. And my pharmacy was like, you have a $7,000 balance. You have a $7,000 balance. You have a $7,000 balance because the insurance company's not going to pay for it. They denied it. They denied it. They denied it. So, yeah, I ended up having to pay a $7,000 balance for them to switch medications halfway through a month. And the shit is insane that I, meanwhile, like, trying to get healthy, trying to, you know, live, they're like, you owe us $7,000. And then you're scared because you're like, holy shit, like, I owe the pharmacy. Like, I don't owe the insurance company. I owe the pharmacy $7,000. So every month when you're trying to order your medications, they're like, yo, you owe us $7,000. So you have to understand that, like, at any point that your medication pharmacy is, like, done with you not paying your bills, they have the right to be like, we can't issue you anything until you pay the bill, you know. Thank God I've never, like, had to deal with that. I've always gotten on a payment plan to be able to pay this shit off. But, I mean, there's so much shitty things. Like, it's shitty. It's shitty. Like, we pay every month to be covered, and this kind of shit happens. And so there's only so many times that you're gonna kick a dog when they're down and that dog is gonna bite back, you know. I did want to make my video today to share those story times, and I guess there's really just not another appropriate time to say those types of things, you know, but I thought it was appropriate with our political climate. And yeah, I was just trying to get back on here and talk to you guys and share with you guys a little bit about what's going on in my brain. And that concludes my video for today. I'm your PH friend from Texas, and I will see you in the next video.